Good morning everyone. This time we will discuss about computer system architecture from about the topic memory organization. So before getting started, first of all we need to understand what is a memory and why do we need to organize it. Why does this topic comes from? What is the motivation behind organization of memory in this computer system architecture? So as we know that computer is a processing device. It is of course it's an electronic device, but its main job is to process something. So what does computer do? It processes something. Of course it takes some input, it gives some output, isn't it? What do we generally, what's a layman definition of a computer? That computer is a processing device which takes some input and gives some output. But this is not necessarily true. As we computer science engineer, we know that input is optional. It may not take an input. It is optional. It may not generate an output as well. But what is the essence of a computer system? Processing. It must process something. That's why we call CPU as the heart of computer, isn't it? Central processing unit. Why? Because it processes something. Now, how does it process something? It needs something to process, do the processing, right? So what it needs is data. It processes something on the data to give us information. And how does it process it? Through instructions, through programs. Okay? How does it know how to process the things? How to process those data? Through the instructions. Now you ask, ma'am, where does memory comes in? We are talking about memory, right? We are here to discuss about memory organization. Now these data and instructions has to be present somewhere, right? They have to be stored somewhere. So that CPU access this data and reads these instructions and then it does it processing. So memory, here the memory definition comes in. Memory is very just simply remember this, that memory is nothing but location where data and instructions are stored. So what is memory? Location where data and instructions are stored. So how does CPU processes on this data? Through instructions, and set of instruction is what we call programs, and set of programs is what we call softwares. Okay. Now let's understand why do we need to organize this memory. Okay. How does it affects? We do have a memory, right? Now why do we need to organize it? Now organization of memory affects the access time of processing. What do you mean by access time? The time taken to process the data. See, the way you organize it, that determines how faster you will be able to access it. A simple example would be, suppose I am an organized person. What do you mean by that? That in my home everything is arranged. Okay, I just don't throw stuffs around. Now does it helps me? Of course, common sense, it helps me. Why? So that's the key point to note here, that is why we have to organize memory also. The same way we organize our houses, we organize our room, not just to make it look good, but also to keep doing things faster. Suppose you want to do something, you know where is where, what is where. Now if you want to make a chai, you in your kitchen, if everything is organized, you absolutely know where the sugar is, where the tea leaves are, where is water, where is your utensils to make tea. So everything is just quickly done. If you do not know, it would take some more time, isn't it? So now you have realized that organization of memory does affect the efficiency of a system, or we can say how faster it accesses the data is determined how we organize the memory. Now first of all, before knowing how the memory is exactly organized, we need to understand the classification of memory. What are the types of memory, and how this should be organized based on their types. So now memory is broadly, we can classify it as memory that is inside CPU and memory that is outside CPU. Now what are the memory inside CPU? It's of course register, CPU register. These are kind of memory, but they have very low storage capacity. Why? Because they are meant for storing only data variable. Okay, they cannot store instructions, program and all those large, huge amount of data. It is not capable of storing because it has very low storage capacity. Excuse me. So we have inside CPU, that is registers, CPU registers, and what else is inside CPU? We have cache. Okay, cache memory. We will study this in detail later. Now CPU registers can be of two types. GPR is general purpose register, and we have special purpose registers. Okay. Now what is general purpose and special purpose? General purpose are just registers that are meant to store any data. We can store any data. Even to store a temporary variable, we can use register. But of course in the program, while writing the program, you have to explicitly mention that it is type of registers. We can store like this: register A. Okay, that means this variable, the value is stored in a register. Okay, so that's what general purpose register are. What are special purpose registers? Special purpose registers are meant to store a typical type of data. We cannot just store any data in special purpose register. An example would be program counter. In PC, we always store the address of the next instruction, don't we? Now we have other special purpose register like instruction register, where only instruction that is currently being executed is stored. So we have special purpose register like instruction register, PC, and we have other register as well, memory buffer registers and memory address registers, etc. Okay. Now cache. As I said, we will study this very thoroughly in detail later. So we have one type of memory called cache. Now comes memory that is outside CPU. Now what are outside CPU? Again we have cache. Just simply follow me. Don't think too much. You may ask, why ma'am you are writing cache twice? See, this is level 1 cache, which is inside CPU. We may have another cache called level 2 cache. Or we also may have one singular cache that is level 2 cache only, which is outside the CPU. So this is a type. Anything may be optional among these. Okay. Now we have main memory or primary memory. Now main memory are of two types, RAM and ROM. This is volatile, this is non-volatile. What do you mean by volatile? Volatile means it holds data until power is supplied. Once power is off, the data goes off. It vanishes. Poof. Okay. So RAM is volatile, ROM is non-volatile. That means ROM stores data even though we don't give a power supply. Even if the power is off, it retains its data. Okay. Now we have secondary memory, which consists of hard disk and magnetic tapes, etc. And we have something else called flash as well. Now what is flash? These are SD card, pen drive, okay, PD, SD card. Okay, so broadly this is everything that has been captured here. Memory, we have inside CPU and outside CPU. Inside we have registers and we may have a cache which is called level 1 cache. And outside CPU we have cache, main memory, secondary memory, flash. Flash is not we are going to stress upon much because it is beyond our scope to study this now. We will majorly focus on this, particularly in this class we will focus on cache memory. Okay. Now let's understand how the memory is actually organized. Why do we need memory organization? We just understood, isn't it? If we keep the data organized, the efficiency of the system would be definitely increased. Now how it is organized to reap the best benefit, or we can say how to organize the memory in the best possible way so that the efficiency is highest. Okay, so for that let's understand memory hierarchy. Memory hierarchy. Okay, now what do you mean by hierarchy? First of all, hierarchy means there is some order or sequence, we may say, that something comes after something, then something else comes after something. So there is a particular order. Okay, like we can say in an organization there is hierarchy of designations. First there is some CEO, then after that the CEO, someone reports to CEO, right? Like the deputy manager, he reports to CEO. Now under the deputy manager, he must be having some subordinates like senior consultants and all those. Then below the ladder goes on, isn't it? Below it there may be some other technical officers. Then we have associates. Then we have ultimately PN, and then we have sweepers and all those things. Okay, group D staffs. So this is a kind of hierarchy. Similarly, here also in terms of memory, the hierarchy, there is a hierarchy, but it is based upon space. There in an organization, the hierarchy is based upon caliber, talent, or okay, the nature of the job they are doing. Here, the hierarchy is based upon space. Okay, it is based upon space. Okay, so the lower the space, it is up in the ladder. Why? We will discuss why it is up in the ladder. So what has the lowest space? Of course, CPU registers. Why? Because they are very limited in number and they have very low storage capacity. They cannot store instructions. They are capable of just storing data variables. Okay. So first, very low storage capacity is of CPU registers. Then what we have? We have cache. Okay. Then we have main memory. Then we have secondary memory. So usually for a program to be executed, the program must be present in main memory. This is the thumb rule. Without getting the data and instruction to the main memory, the CPU cannot process the data because the CPU interacts with main memory, period. The CPU always interacts with main memory. Okay. Now user interacts with secondary memory. Whatever data we give, whatever, if you want to play a game, we store it in secondary memory, and when we actually run the game, it is taken from secondary memory to main memory, and then the execution takes place. Actual running of game takes place. So when you power off, you cannot just save all the data. Where you left, you cannot just start over right again. Okay, the things goes off, but the data is there, the game is there. Okay, every single time you need not install it. But while you are in a game, you are in some position, now the power goes off, that thing is gone. But the game is there. Why? Because the game is stored in secondary memory, because as a user you have used secondary memory for storage. And whenever we are running the system, whenever you are running the game, you are actually playing the game, then only the data and instruction, that is the software of that game, is loaded to main memory and CPU process it. That is what we call running the game. Okay, playing the game. So this is how happens. That is, user interacts with main memory and CPU interacts with, so user interacts with secondary memory, pardon me, and CPU interacts with main memory. Now you may ask, okay, we understood, ma'am, the usage of registers, main memory, secondary memory. Now why do we need cache? What's the purpose of cache? So our entire class is based upon that discussion only. We are here only to discuss thoroughly about cache. So cache is also a type of main memory. Cache is also a type of main memory, and it is also called high speed RAM. Okay, it is also called high speed RAM. So as we said that as we discussed that organization affects the efficiency, how it affects the efficiency here, and why have we put cache, everything you can connect the dot now. Let's see here, this way the speed will decrease. Why? Because CPU registers are the fastest. It has very low storage capacity and CPU can act very faster if it has to get data from CPU registers. Okay, because first of all it is inside CPU, secondly it has very low storage space. Now a simple example would be, if I ask you to find something within this class, and if I ask you to find something inside this entire university, now which will take longer? Of course the later one, isn't it? Finding something inside this entire university will take much longer rather than finding it in a class. Okay, similarly if I ask you to find something within just a desk where you are sitting, I have kept something within your desk only, you have to find it. You will find it in seconds, isn't it? In few seconds you can find it. Okay, so this is how the hierarchy is in terms of space, that the speed decreases as the storage capacity increases. Okay, as the space increases, the speed decreases. Why? Because the CPU has to access a larger space. It has to find the data it wants to execute in a larger space, and it takes more time, isn't it? So what is the nature? We have to organize in this way the memory so that the speed is highest. Okay, so this case, speed decreases, and here space decreases. As we go up, space decreases because this has the lowest space, then this, and this has the highest space. And in terms of speed, this is the fastest, this is the slowest. So this is how we have to arrange the memory to get the maximum benefit. So to make the system best efficient, or we can say to make the system, to organize the system in the best possible way, in an optimal way, how do we organize the space. So this is CPU, it interacts with cache. Registers are within it. As I said, here we are focusing on getting a data, not a singular data. Okay, we are trying to fetch instruction and data in order to execute something. So instructions and data are always stored in larger memory storage capacity spaces like cache, main memory and secondary memory. So we are just skipping the registers part. Of course, they are the fastest and they are inside CPU. They are inherently there, and small data like arithmetic operations like modulo operations or addition, subtraction, for which we need singular data operands that we call, that we stored inside CPU registers. That too sometimes, not always, okay, because they are very limited in number. Okay, so CPU interacts with cache memory, which then interacts with main memory, secondary memory, then finally user gives in data here in secondary memory. Users always puts it data inside secondary memory. Now what is cache is our question, isn't it? We are coming back to the discussion now. See, cache is also called an intermediate memory. And as I said, it is also called high speed RAM. Now, what is the purpose of cache? Cache makes the execution, or we can say fetching of data in instructions from the main memory even more faster. Why? Because it acts as a buffer. It acts as a buffer for storing the most recently used instructions. Okay, so the most recently used instructions are stored in cache memory. That's why it is called high speed RAM. Okay, so as I said, it is a type of main memory, so of course it is also volatile in nature. So what is volatile? It holds the data as long as there is supply of power. As long as power is cut off, the data also vanishes. Okay. So now cache works on the principle of, we can say, locality of reference. You may ask, now how does it know what to store the data? What at all is stored in the data, how does it know? Based on something, no? It has to decide what I have to keep inside me and what not. So cache works on the principle of locality of reference. Locality of reference. That is what is referred by CPU. Okay. So if something is referred by CPU, cache predicts that if x has been used now, a variable x has been used now, there is a 90% chance that it will be used again. So it stores x inside cache. Okay. So this is called temporal locality. Temporal locality. What is temporal? Time. So I am repeating it again. What is temporal locality? It says if a data is accessed now, currently, then there is a higher chance that it will be accessed later. It is going to be definitely accessed in the near future. This is how cache predicts what to store inside itself. Okay. Now, there is an additional optimization also. It not just stores x but also everything that is beside X. Suppose X has been demanded by the CPU now currently, then everything that is beside, or we can say in the neighborhood of X, everything will be stored. The entire block will be stored in cache. Okay. So this entire block is brought to cache. Okay. So cache just does not store X. Apart from it, it also stores the whole thing. This is called spatial locality. Spatial locality means space. According to space, the reference is decided. What to refer, that is decided based on what is being accessed currently, and what is also in the neighborhood in terms of space is also stored inside the cache. Okay. So I think it is clear on what principle cache works. Okay. So cache, we will just give a brief summary about cache. Cache acts as a buffer, or we can say it is used as an intermediate memory for storing the most recently used instructions. It also acts as a high speed RAM. Now, cache does a major improvement. Because of cache, there is a major improvement in efficiency, or we can say the accessing of data becomes much faster. Why? Because it balances the speed gap between CPU and main memory. Okay. CPU is very faster, we know. Now main memory is a bit slower. Actually it reduces, or we can say it bridges the gap between CPU and secondary memory, because the user puts in data where? Secondary memory. In secondary memory, we are sure that we will find the data. Okay. Always. Now, but secondary memory is very, very slow in terms of CPU. If CPU first accesses secondary memory, it will take a lot of time to fetch the data. Okay. So that's why we put the data in main memory for execution. So every data that has to be executed is taken from secondary memory and put in main memory. Then only it is eligible for execution. Okay. Now in order to optimize further, in order to make the system more better, we have placed cache, which almost bridges the gap between the main memory. If at all there is some gap, because main memory is also has more storage capacity. So cache is smaller and it stores the most frequent instruction that needs to be executed, and this way CPU takes very less time to fetch data. Okay. Now the question arises, you may ask, ma'am, you are saying that yes, it now become faster, everything is okay, but there may be a chance now that it may not find the data it requires, because as I said, cache memory is limited. Now some data is stored. CPU may ask for some other data like Y. We have X, Z, P, M, O. Y is not there. It may be such case, no, that it is demanding for data Y, which may not be present in cache. In that case, it looks for that same Y data in main memory. If it finds that, well and fine, then Y is also stored here in cache in some free slot. Okay. If at all Y is also not present in main memory, then we get it from secondary memory. Now here data is always present. Y will be always present. Why? Because user interacts with secondary memory. In the very beginning I taught you that always whatever instruction we put in, it is always stored in secondary memory. So if at all CPU is accessing or demanding some data, it must be present in secondary memory. So this is how the hierarchy takes place. when a data is requested, it is first searched inside cache, then inside main memory if not found, then inside secondary memory if it is not found in main memory, and in secondary memory it is definite that it will get the data, but the time would be much more. Okay, it may take much longer to get the data. Okay, so this is how execution takes place. Now cache performance is based on how much request does it serve successfully. So you may say that if every single time we do not find the data in cache, then what is the use of cache, ma'am? If every single time CPU asks for some data and it is not present in cache, then what's the use? But it doesn't happen much. Okay, most of the time 90% of the data is always found. Okay, 90% of the time we always found data. Only 5% of time there may be the case that we may not find the data. Okay, why? Because cache works on the principle of locality of reference. Okay, and it is an inherent property of a system, of computer system, that if a data is used now, it is a must that 90% there is a chance that it will be accessed in near future. Okay, so even to optimize that, we are also taking data that is besides or in the neighborhood of data. So that's why it minimizes the chance of having or not finding the data. Okay, so we have given a name for it. Okay, to measure the CPU performance, we call it hit ratio. So what is hit ratio? It is the measurement which can tell us how much efficient a cache is, or if at all it is helping us, it is making the system better or not. So the formula for hit ratio is number of cache hits by total number of requests. So how much time it is able to successfully provide the data. That's how we know how much hits are present. These are called hits. Hits means the time we get the data, we say it's a hit. If we could not find the data in the cache, then we say it's a miss. So what is hits? Hit means we are finding the data. Miss means if we do not get the data inside the cache. Okay, so this is called hit ratio, the number of hits by the total number of requests. If hit ratio is more, we say cache performance is much better. If hit ratio is less, we say the performance of cache is not so good. Okay, so we will solve a few problems relating to this concept. Now we will learn about how much time it takes to execute one instruction if we follow this kind of hierarchy. Okay, now the time taken exactly is measured in terms of effective memory access time. Effective memory access time. This is the time taken to execute or to find an instruction. Okay, not to execute, I'm sorry, to find an instruction, to getting an instruction for memory. How much time on an average is taken is called effective memory access time if we follow this hierarchy. Okay, so now the formula is, we have a formula for that. It is of course common sense. Hit ratio, hit of cache by access time of cache plus or we will simply state that so what is the formula for this? Hit ratio of cache, and C is access time of cache, access time of cache memory. This is 1 minus H means the number of time miss takes place. Okay, if hit is 0.8, we can say 80%. 80% means 0.8. If hit is 0.8, what is miss? That is, what is 1 minus H? That is miss, isn't it? 0.2 is the time it misses. 80% of the time we are able to find the data. So 20% of time is the remaining time that we are not finding the data. So this is common sense. This is the time that we get hit. So when we get a hit, what does it mean? That means we are able to find the data in cache, right? So where are we searching? We are searching inside the cache. So this is the access time of cache memory whenever a hit takes place. When a miss takes place, where do we have to search now? When a miss takes place, CPU has to search where? If it is not able to find the data in cache, it has to go and search in main memory, isn't it? So this is the main memory access time in case of a miss. So in case of a miss, where do we search? We search in main memory. So what is this now? This is main memory access time. So I think the formula is clear now. So here we are working on two level. Two level mean cache and main memory. We are not considering secondary memory here. So we are taking it for granted by default that memory would be at last present in main memory only. Data would be present in main memory only in the end, because we have just two level of memory here. Two level means main memory, cache and CPU. CPU is demanding something, it may be present in cache. If it is present in cache, we search inside the cache, and if it is not present in cache, we search in main memory, and here we are expected to find the data. Why? Because it is the last level of memory. Okay. So in this formula, we are considering that main memory is the last level of memory. Here we are we will find the data. Okay. So that's why we are in the formula. Actually the formula should be like this. I am adding this variable here. What is this variable? Actually this is 1. This is the hit ratio in main memory. That is how many times we may find the data in main memory. Now as I said here, this is a 2 level. That means we are always sure to find the data in main memory. By default we will find the data in main memory, isn't it? Here I am adding a variable called H, which says that this is the hit ratio of main memory. Okay. Now as I said, we have just 2 levels of memory here. So last level is main memory. So we are by default we will find the data in the main memory. Why? Because it is the last level. So always we will find the data in main memory. So hit ratio of main memory will be 1. Why? Because we will always find the data in main memory. So that's why instead of writing it, we simply make the formula short and say this. Coming back to the original. Okay. So main memory is the last level of memory. Here we will always find the data. That's why hit ratio of main memory is 1. That's why we don't write it. I think I hope you got the idea. Okay. So we will see a few problems based on this. Suppose the question is problem 1. see, doing problems will enhance your understanding regarding this topic. So that's why I have taken two problems based on the concept we just discussed now, that is the effective memory access time. So here we will find the effective memory access time given some data. Okay, so the question is, suppose hit ratio of cache is, we say 0.8, that is 80%, and given the cache access time as say 5 nanoseconds and main memory access time as 50 nanoseconds. So what is the effective memory access time? It is a simple problem. Okay, just put the values in the formula and get the answer. Okay, this type of problem it is. So we will simply write the formula. What is the formula? H into C plus 1 minus H into M. Now what is H? 0.8. And what is C? 5 nanoseconds plus 1 minus H is what? 1 minus H is equal to 1 minus 0.8, that is 0.2. So 0.2 into 50 nanoseconds. So what is the answer? Quickly tell me. This is 4 nanoseconds plus, what is this? 10 nanoseconds, isn't it? This is 10 nanoseconds. So we have 14 nanoseconds. So this is the average access time in case of a hit ratio of cache 0.8%. So this is the time more or less we are going to take in order to access data in such kind of memory hierarchy. Okay. So I hope this is clear to everyone. You can post your doubt. If you at all have any doubt, post it in the comment section. Okay, or else you can mail me as well. Now we will discuss another problem, problem 2. Just a variant. Now suppose we may say that hit ratio of cache is suppose 0.9 and this is hit ratio of cache, and cache access time is suppose 1 nanoseconds. Okay. Now we have hit ratio of main memory as 0.8 suppose, and main memory access time is 10 nanoseconds. And then we have secondary memory access time as 500 nanoseconds suppose. So here with the question you can understand that this is a 3-level memory hierarchy. What is 3 level? That is CPU interacts with cache. Then if it finds the data, well and fine, otherwise it will search in main memory. If it doesn't find the data in main memory as well, it will finally search in secondary memory, where it is by default it will find the data. Okay, because the user interacts with secondary memory, it is a 3-level memory, it is the ultimate level. So in the last level we are bound to find the data, we will definitely find the data. Okay, so according to this, the question is, what is the effective memory access time? So we will just blend the formula according to the architecture here. So what is the formula? Pay attention. That's why I made you understand the formula, so that according to the situation you can formulate the formula. Okay. So here simply first we will search where? Cache. Okay. So most hit ratio of cache into, we are searching in cache. If we do not find the data in cache, okay, so where will we search? 1 minus HC. If we do not find the data in search, where cache, where will we search? Main memory. So now what is the hit ratio of main memory? That is the time where we will search in main memory into M. Now if we do not find the data in main memory as well, where will we search? In secondary memory. So here what we will write? 1 minus HM into Hit ratio of secondary memory. Now we know hit ratio of secondary memory is always 1. Why? We will find the data in secondary memory. We know that. That's why I am not writing it, although I will write it. Let's say 1 and secondary memory access time. So this is the formula. Okay. So just solve it. Put the values. 0.9 into 1 nanosecond plus, what is 1 minus HC? 0.1. 1 minus 0.9, that is 0.1 into hit ratio of main memory is 0.8 into access time of main memory is 10 seconds plus, when we do not find the data in main memory as well, we search secondary memory. So what is miss ratio of main memory? What is this? 1 minus 0.8, that is 0.2 into, I am directly solving it, hope it is understandable, into secondary memory is 500 nanosecond. Okay. Now just simply solve it. This is 0.9 nanosecond plus, how much this is? 1 by 10 into 8 by 10. I am solving this for you in a longer way. So this is 0.8 nanoseconds plus, let's solve this now, 2 by 10 into 500. So what is this? 100 nanoseconds. So what is the answer we are finally getting? 100 plus 0.8 plus 0.9. So 9 plus 8 is 17. 71,101.7 nanosecond. So this is the answer. Okay. I hope you got the idea, everyone. So here I am just summarizing what we studied in this lecture, that we understood what memory is, and we understood that there is a higher importance of organizing memory in certain way so that efficiency of the system is more. So we organize the data in some way in order to increase the efficiency. Now how is the organization? The organization is based on how much faster we can get access to a memory location. Okay. So we came to the conclusion that the hierarchy should be based upon space. So the lower the space, the faster the memory access. So we arrange the memory in a way that first CPU has to access cache, then cache has to access main memory, then main memory, then if data is not found in memory, then we have to access secondary memory. So that the hierarchy is as such: first cache, then main memory, then we have secondary memory. This is the way CPU accesses data from this memory level. Why? Because each one is faster, and as we move on, it goes on slowing down. Okay, the time taken is more. Okay. Now we understood the importance of cache. Cache kind of acts as a buffer which bridges the gap between the CPU speed and the secondary memory speed. So in cache we usually store the most recently used instruction. So how does it store recently used instruction? Through the principle of locality of reference. So now there are two types of locality of reference. One is based on temporal locality, that is based on the time, and spatial locality, that is based on space. And we also solved a few problems regarding how much time it will take for us to access a data following the hierarchy. Okay. So I think that will be all. You may post your doubt. You may post your doubt in my mail ID. Email is saswati.skdav@gmail.com. Okay. You may post your doubt here, or you may post your doubt in the comment sections as well. Just tag me and give a comment. Okay. So that will be all. Thank you.